Next chapter is India's external sector. This is next chapter itself. I have not written it, I guess. This is 6th chapter. So India's external sector. When we talk about external sector, what comes into our mind? Two accounts should come. Current account and capital account. So basically we will talk here about BOP, balance of payment. So global economic environment and its impact. What was the global economic environment? Again, same things which we have already discussed. What was happening with respect to USA? Trade protectionism, America first policy. They were building wall on Mexico and USA. So all the policies were towards America first. Okay. Same in Western Europe, basically in Western countries, Europe only. What was happening? There was a shift in government. Basically, all the government which were being elected, they were having right bent. So basically, rightists were there. So what will be their target? Our country first. Same protectionism, our country. So due to this trade protectionism, and one more observation we have been observing from the first chapter is there has been slowdown in the world output or world GDP. So these two things, along with that, federal shutdown. What does the federal shutdown? There was very much in news, shutdown. What does it mean? Briefly. Yeah, so same, to simplify, vote on account. What in our scenario, let's say, our budget has not been passed, and in our budget has also not been passed, and our vote on account, budget will pass when proper discussion and all, everything will happen in July. But for that period, we need vote on account. Even that has been not passed, and we don't have any money, means government doesn't have any money. So it is called shutdown. If you don't have money, where will you invest? From where will you get the money? So same thing was happening in USA. So US shutdown this time was for longer duration. Vote on account was not, there was no money to spend with respect, government was not having it. So all these things also affected the international level problems. So production and all, and one more problem happened, production problem in automotive sector in Germany. So with respect to US, we saw with respect to US, we saw America first policy, trade protectionism, trade war, and with respect to US, we also saw the shutdown, and with respect to Germany, production in automotive sector. And other than this, there was one more problem, many problems were there. US put sanction on India also, right? So this global, and one more thing we discussed, the overall economics, the world GDP, there was slowdown. Okay, so the global economic environment was like this in 2018 and 19. What was the impact? What has been its impact? It led to US-China trade war, world growth slowdown. It was 3.6 in 2018. However, it was 4.6% in 2017. So you need not to know this data. In general, you should know that there has been slowdown. India's export got negatively affected. Why? Our traditional markets are US and Western Europe. So our export has got negatively affected. Crude oil prices also began to harden. Why? Because the countries which are producing it, they also followed this production cuts, and even the USA also put certain sanctions with respect to Iran. So the crude oil prices also were very hard in the previous year. So this way, can you think how everything is interlinked? So global economic scenario, it was there, certain things were there, and it affected not only the global level thing, but it also affected our export, our CAD, our supply to the import, supply of our crude oil, and when it will be affected within our country, inflation will be affected, the prices of the commodity will be affected, our investment, our saving, our demand will be affected. So overall that cycle will be affected. If the scenario is very vicious outside, not favorable outside, so the cycle will become vicious cycle. If the scenario is favorable outside, it will become virtuous. Simple. Okay, so India's BOP development. When we talk about BOP, what does it mean? Here what should come? Current Not deficit first, current account will come. Then deficit will come. Capital. In current, what will come? Balance of trade. Within balance of trade, we talk with respect to merchandise, import and export. And we also talk with respect to services. That is called trade in invisible, right? What will be the second? Remittances. There are broader categories. We are writing remittances are there, gifts are there. Under capital account, broadly what will come? FDI, FII, then NRI deposits, then external commercial borrowings. These are broader, not everything is not here. I have just written symbolically to show you, just to trigger what all will come. So when we talk about balance of trade, it will be visible and invisible. So when we import and export the commodities, it is visible. When we export or import the services, it is invisible. When we talk about this transfer, basically under transfer, remittances and gifts will come. Then your income from abroad with respect to whatever interest and dividends you are getting, and current account in general we know. Now we will see, since this picture should be there in our mind. On the basis of this picture, we will discuss what has happened in 2018 and 19. So current account deficit, basically it has increased. So there has been widening of the current account deficit. When you will say this widening, though in the first chapter we saw within this macroeconomic variables that it has been within manageable limits, but fine. But in 18 and 19, there has been widening of it from 1.8% in 2017 and 18 to 2.4% in 18 and 19. Did I say something wrong? No. In 17 and 18 it was 1.8% and in 18 and 19 it was 2.4%. So there has been widening. Okay, when we talk about widening current account deficit, we are talking about this scenario. So why it has increased? We saw our trade deficit. We saw in with respect to value. So where will be the trade deficit? Here only. Yes or no? Do you agree? No? Trade deficit. Import and export. So due to that, trade deficit will be there. So it will come here only. What was our trade deficit? We 184 billion. We discussed whole question about that, how to improve our trade deficit. So trade deficit was there. 1. So they have given value in percentage, but we know one data. 184 billion is there. Let's remember that only. Then rise in the crude oil prices. We saw here that there were hardening of the crude oil prices. So due to rise of the crude oil prices, it also led to the problem of widening of current account deficit. Then we also saw that here, due to all the problems at the global level, our export declined. If our export will decline, what will happen? Current account deficit will increase. It widened. So just to substantiate your point, you should have 2-3 points. Are you getting? Everybody is getting, right? Because people are very serious, as though question mark. Okay, today we are not laughing, that's why. Okay, we'll laugh a lot. This is the last chapter. Okay, this is last chapter. And we'll see interesting things. So current account deficit we saw. With respect to export, now people are active. They are happy. Declining, happiness. There was a question in ethics, 2014 or 15? 14, happiness. What does happiness mean for you? These are very basic questions. For example, you can say, not you only, everybody. The day it was told that, the minute it was told that this is the last chapter of the economic survey, we felt happy. So that is happening. Happiness is very contextual in nature. It can be with respect to food, it can be with respect to any kind of pleasure, it can be with respect to, it is very momentary also and it is very contextual also. So it will vary for him that why he is discussing all rubbish thing. It will vary for you that no sir is saying that it is going to end. It will vary for me that okay finally it is my last class. So it is very contextual in nature. With the same scenario, the same thing can be different for different person. So for such question, what should you do? You should write plain whatever it is there in your heart. Sometimes I feel very good after eating my home cooked food. Yes, I feel happy when I eat food made by my mom, right? So such things even you can substantiate with the help of example. It not has to be something very intellectual level. Happiness means when spiritually I will be connected to Krishna. No, no. People think that okay, some intellectual answer has to be with respect to that. Then next year, one question was with respect to anger management. How do you manage your anger? There was question. Can you recall? What is anger management and how do you manage your anger? It was there, right? So if I ask you, everybody will have different answer. Okay, whenever, for me anger management is counting backwards. For me, for some person, okay, anger management is leaving out of the class. Okay. Okay. He is discussing ethics here, taking economic survey class, and I am getting angry. Better leave the class itself. So it means avoiding the situation. I talk logical things. Okay. In anthropology, there is community, basically Andamanis. They have this practice to resolve this dispute. They avoid the situation. The person due to whom this dispute has come, the person will be sent to some remote corner of the forest and he will return after 2 days. By that time, what will happen? All emotions will be settled. Another practice is there. The person who has created dispute and the other person is there. If they have to show anger, they will not do anything to that person. They will break everything. They will break the all the belongings and they will show their anger with respect to that. So anger management, it will vary from community to community. Don't think that this question cannot be asked. I am saying that like this only you need to think and you need to trigger your thought process. It can be very general things. Okay. If it has been happiness and anger, maybe they will ask what is pleasure, and according to you what are the forms of pleasure, and for you what does pleasure means. They will change the word. So with ethics, the only good thing which I find very good is that if you will keep thinking regularly with respect to case studies, with respect to any general things, your answer will be very beautiful and you can substantiate the things from your life. What does honesty mean for you? Of course, there will be certain technical things in nature, nowadays they are asking, but be prepared from your own experience, enrich your experience in order to enrich your answer. Okay, lot of ball action will shift. Where were we? Exports. So, due to all these scenarios, we first saw the widening of the current account deficit, then we saw what was the scenario with respect to, okay, no, export we are yet to discuss. Export, now they have given one separate topic of export. They are saying that in export, what do we export maximum? Just for your understanding. Very good. So, petroleum, oil, lubricant, we export mostly maximum and they contribute or they constitute approx 14% of our total export basket. Okay. Okay, when we are talking about share, these are basic. I am not telling you what all we export and what all. Just one trigger to support your answer. So, our export, we saw the scenario. Within export, what we export maximum. So, it can be asked in interview or you can substantiate on your answer. Then you should know where we export more, which is our largest export market. Our export market in 18 and 19 was maximum was USA 16%. Then UAE and then China. Maximum was USA 16%. Now you link. When your maximum, the market in which you are exporting maximum, they are only in problem. What will happen with your economy or what will happen with your export? What will happen with your virtuous cycle of economic growth in the terms of export, right? So, for that what you need? We have already discussed, diversify your market plus try to capitalize on new things or sunrise industries or new technology, new industries, new media services. This was with respect to export. Import has increased and the culprit is crude oil. Crude oil is the culprit. It is the largest imported commodity in 2018 and 19 and it was approached 22%. What is 22%? What happened? Why your intention? Okay. 22%. What was 22%? Okay, in 2018. So when we know the commodity, now we should know from where, which country? Huh? Saudi? No, not with respect to crude oil. With respect to overall import, China. China continues to be the largest source of our imports, approx 13.7%. So export is maximum USA 16%, import maximum from China, that is 13.7%, approx 14%. And trade deficit data we have. We saw export, we saw import, but trade deficit data we have. So we are not discussing here. Okay, when we will talk about this, we spoke or we discussed with respect to import and export. Import and export is trade in visibles. When we talk about trade in invisibles, that is services, they are saying that their domination is, or which services is dominating more? Software services. Software services dominate more, and they are approx 40% of the total services receipts. We saw the trade in visible, trade in invisibles. Now comes the remittances. We have already very good data, and we are the highest remittance. This. Why you are speaking one word? So India was the top remittance recipient country in 2018 with what is the value? 78.6 billion USD, and we have even crossed China. So this graph tells you that we are at the first position and second is China. You need not to draw this graph, no, not at all required. Just you need to mention this value, and you mention that India has been the top recipient, 78.6 billion, crossing China also. Simply that much is required. You need not to represent graph for everything. I have kept it just to show you for your visual appeal. So with this we end the topic of remittances. We are not going for everything, gift, what was the gift and what are the other factors. Remittances, services and import and export, basic and more broad data we should have. With respect to capital account, in capital account they are saying that investment decline. Of course, why? Because again you link with the US related things, the certainty or uncertainty happening at the global level, slowdown is happening. So the investors, of course, they will look for good market like India, but there has been slowdown in the investment by foreign nationals. So net foreign investment has declined. And there has been reduced dependency on how do we finance our current account deficit from whatever foreign investment we get. But since our forex is improving, what was our forex in first class? 422 billion US dollar, 422 billion, one of the highest in India. Okay, so they are saying since our forex is improving, so we are no more dependent on these foreign investors for our current account deficit. We are not dependent, we have our own things. So they are saying the dependency is reducing since we are improving in our forex reserves. So this was with respect to general foreign investment and external commercial borrowing. We will see. World Bank data says that India is the third largest debtor, debt, debt we call it, but generally it will be silent, DEBTOR. Third largest debtor country among developing countries after China and Brazil. So we are getting like it shows what? We are dependent on external commercial borrowings, right? Yes or no? Next is exchange rate. Now he told that it is around 72, but what they are mentioning that it was one of the least volatile emerging market currency in Indian rupee. Indian rupee was least volatile in the period of 17 and 18 within the range of 63 to 65 per US dollar. So not required basically. So we saw the India's BOP development in 2018 and 19. This is again very good topic because one full-fledged topic is there, logistics sector, and now logistics sector has been given the status of infrastructure. So now the question can be asked in GS3 under the topic of infrastructure. Okay, that can be asked. So we have certain data. We'll see that. First, you tell me what steps have been taken to improve the logistics sector in India. Waterways. Yeah, how many waterways are there in India? 111. One amendment was brought, one act was brought. So earlier 6 were there, now it has been added. So 111 waterways have been identified. Bharatmala, Sagarmala, dedicated freight corridor. These are helping. Then recently we have given infrastructure status. So it will mobilize more fund, more investment to the sector. With respect to when we talk about logistics, what basically comes into our mind? What does logistics mean? Transport is one, then warehouses, cold chain, okay. Then logistics park have been established, multimodal logistics park have been established. We are giving subsidy on cold chain and park houses. So they are saying again that Indian logistics sector is one of the sunshine industry or sun rising industry where we can capitalize with respect to again employment and overall growth. Okay, so it is one of the sun rising industry. So we have data. They are saying that for now Indian logistic cost is very high. It is approached 13 to 14% of GDP. If we bring it down up to 8 to 10% of GDP, then it will become globally competitive. And once it becomes globally competitive, then only it will be not a burden, but it will be more remunerative and more prosperous for the economic growth. So what is the data? At present, it is 13 to 14% of GDP, which is very high. But when it becomes 8 to 10%, it will be globally competitive. Okay, so basically we are done with the economic survey. The core chapters are done. Not core, all chapters are done. You will think, okay, core are done, what is left now? Okay, so all are done. So thank you for the patience.